What's up, everybody? It's your girl Erica, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you just stopping by. I am here to do my weekly review of Love and Marriage Huntsville. Of course, I normally give you my reviews on Sundays, but guys, I was out at the stores yesterday. I know it's Thanksgiving week, but oh my God. I mean, it was like anybody and everybody was at the stores. And I was like going from store to store, and it was just like complete pandemonium. So anyway, by the time I got home, I was just worn out. So I just said I'll come down on Monday and give you guys a video. So again, happy Monday. I hope you're having an amazing day, and I hope you've had a great start to your week. I know how Mondays can be sometimes, but I hope I can give you just a little sunshine just even through this video. So again, let's talk about Love and Marriage Huntsville season 10 episode 10, and it was called Like a Bat Out of Nell. Now this was a pretty good episode, guys. As you can see, I have my notes here. It wasn't a whole lot of scenes. It was probably just about three or four scenes, but the scenes were kind of long, especially the game night for the group. And like I said, there was a whole lot going on. So let's get into it. The opening scene was with Latricia. Latricia went out with her friend Sharon. She had gone out to dinner with Sharon. And Latricia was talking about her progress on her emotional or her healing journey. As we all know, Latricia is she's now seeing Dr. Francis, who is the resident therapist for the Love and Marriage Huntsville cast. And she saw him last week. Dr. Francis gave her some homework. She seems to be wanting to kind of work through some things and to sort of get better. She told Sharon that Ken left for a couple of days, but he returned. And then she also told Sharon that even, with her seeing Dr. Ken gave her some pointers, and they seemed to work. She said, because normally how she would handle a situation, she said she actually thought about it before she reacted, and she didn't even have the same reaction. So that was good. That's a good sign. And she also told Sharon that she had gone to visit her parents' grave for the first time, and she said it was like the weight of the world had been lifted from her shoulders. So that's also a good sign. I know Dr. Francis told her last week that she does have to let people in. She does have to sort of, kind of clear out some of that emotional baggage, the anger, the bitterness, and then allow people to love her and take care of her. So hopefully she's taking Dr. Francis's advice, and she's going to stick with this spiritual journey and this emotional and healing journey. And hopefully we will see a new Latricia soon after. Like I said, we know it's going to take some time. It won't be, I'm sure we'll see a few more episodes with her and Dr. Francis, but then too, the real work will begin at home. We all know that it will begin when the cameras are turned off and she's just back to her normal life. So we wish her well on that emotional healing journey, and hopefully, like I said, we will get a better Latricia in the seasons to come. So the next scene was Kimmy. Kimmy and Letitia weren't on last week's episode, but they are back, and they are back with a bang. But we will get to that very soon. So Kimmy set up like a little, like a girls' day for them. They actually went to this place called Magnolia. She set it up for Latricia, Destiny, and Letitia to join her. It's a place where you sort of make soaps and candles and bath bombs and stuff like that. So the girls arrived, and she was saying, look, I know, it has been said that we need to sort of get to know each other a little bit better. We need to hang out more. So I thought that this would be like a great start. So of course the girls were talking, just having their normal conversation, girl conversation. And I think Destiny even asked, where was Nell? So Kimmy kind of, she kind of hesitated, but she said it in her confessional. She said, look, she said it kind of sarcastically. So that let me kind of know where Kimmy is with Nell too. She said, Nell is probably preparing for the game night. We're going to see her later on, and that's exactly where she needs to be. And so just the way Kimmy said it, I was like, okay, yeah, I can feel her. So I think Nell really got under both Tisha and Kimmy's skin when they had, I think when that whole YouTube video came out, or the video came out where the lady was saying that there was a lady saying that she had been with both Marceau and Maurice, and Nell sort of rubbed them the wrong way last season, or the first part of the season, asking them how they really felt about what was said about their husbands. So Destiny said, okay, you know, Nell's not here. She said, well, I really thought, I didn't even think about that. But she said, I thought about the fact that maybe Nell didn't want to, or you would say Nell didn't want to come because of, Nell wasn't invited because of Letitia. So Letitia was like, well, what do I have to do with it? And so Destiny told the ladies that, you know, she had met with Nell, and Nell mentioned, she said she told Nell that Tisha had mentioned to her about Lance having the baby. And she said her and Nell were, you know, cool, and she thought Nell could have actually told her herself, but she didn't. And so they discussed that. And so Nell told Destiny, well, you know, Letitia needs to keep my name out of her effing mouth. And so Letitia was like, well, why would she feel so strongly about that when she actually told me that? Like, I would not know anything about a baby had she not mentioned it. So Latricia kind of threw something in there too, and saying, yeah, you know, Nell does have a problem with you. She did tell me that she has a problem, you know, with you or whatever. And so Letitia was like, okay, this is just like getting weird. Like, I thought Nell and I were cool, and now she's back talking about this. And so I think Kimmy kind of felt the same way, like, why is Nell talking about this? So Kimmy said, you know, Kimmy even confirmed, she said, look, Nell did say something about the baby. You know, she said, I can't remember. She said, I don't have all the details of what Nell said, but it was definitely said that there was a baby on the way. She said whether the baby was born or the young lady was in labor, that part is a little sketchy, but it was said that that Lance was having a baby and they needed to get back. So, of course, you know, this is something that will be discussed later on. And, you know, we get to it because, again, we've already, after their scene, we went immediately to game night, and it was called Flextivities. And it was really a really nice setup. They had it like at a private area or private space. They had games set up. There was food and drinks, you know, really, really nice. I thought they did a really, you know, decent job with that. I think the atmosphere was perfect for this particular group. It appeared to be somewhat of a couples night because mostly everyone came with someone. Martell was the only one that came solo, but he did have a picture on his shirt with both he and Ariane on it, but Ariane did not come to the event. Even Lance brought a date and Destiny brought a date, but we'll get to that. So as the scene opened, when Nell and Chris Fletcher arrived, I think Kimmy and Maurice were the first to get there, and then Latricia and Ken got there, and they were just having little small talk. And Nell, I think there was like a little inside joke between Latricia and Kimmy about the balls, and I think it was like the bombs that they were making, the soap balls or whatever they were making. And so Nell said, well, it feels like I'm missing out on something. So Kimmy said, well, I just want to let you know that the girls went out, you know, just, you know, for the day, and we had a good time. We were making the soap, and she said, I didn't invite you because of the simple fact that you were preparing for this, and I knew that you would be busy in preparing for the night. So you could tell that Nell was kind of like offended by it. Her feelings were probably a little hurt, but Nell is not going to actually say that. She's a horrible communicator, so naturally Nell is going to go on the defense, and eventually her feelings being hurt will turn into her yelling. So it was, you know, she was about to go there, but you know, other people, you know, started coming in, and that's how we were introduced to Nell. I think I told you last episode, and I've even said it just throughout the past couple of seasons, I'm not a big fan of Nell. I'm not going to put anything on her that's not there, but I'm just not a big fan of Nell. When we were introduced to Nell and Chris were introduced to us as Martell and Mel's friends, but then when they were introduced to us as a couple and they were going to be on the show, we immediately saw Nell fussing and yelling and walking through her house complaining about she feels unimportant, unseen. She doesn't get the attention she deserves. Her family takes advantage of her. They sit down for dinner. She's still fussing and complaining and yelling at the kids. And, you know, it's like just an animal kingdom, like a wow house. You know, Chris doesn't say anything. He lets Nell have his way because he's probably acted up so much in their marriage that he just doesn't even go toe to toe with her about anything. And so she just yells. So she yells about not people disrespecting her. Then she, you know, when they came back, then we started hearing that the children were borrowing money from her and they weren't paying her back. And then so she complained about that. Then she complained there was an issue with Martell and Ariane. I know she had met Ariane and there was an issue with Martell. She was complaining about that. Now she's complaining about Letitia, and Letitia needs to keep her name out of her effing mouth, and she doesn't like Kimmy, and she's complaining some more. So that is just who Nell is. But overall, the game night was fun. I think everybody had a good time. And I have to make this point, guys. I need to go back just a little bit. When the girls were out, Destiny did say, you know, so to lighten the mood, Destiny told them that she also had a conversation with Lance, and that Lance told her that the guy, they knew about Twan, but Destiny told them that Twan was Lance's godbrother. And so Kimmy made a statement in her confessional that she didn't think it would make a difference with Destiny, with the whole thing with Lance and Twan being godbrothers. She said, I really don't think it's going to make a difference in Destiny's world. And the reason why I'm mentioning that, because like I said, everyone came coupled up to this event. Well, Lance came with a date, and then Destiny comes in with Ken's friend Will. Like, go, what? Will? Okay, Will has been introduced to this cast some time ago. I think they're trying to incorporate him into this show in some sort of way. I don't know, as a friend of, I don't know. He's made quite a few appearances. Normally, we see Will with Ken in the times where he's been discussing his issues with Latricia. But now we're starting to see Will at more of their outings and more of their events. I think the men had an event. Will was there. We're starting to see him a lot more. But what I didn't like is that, now, like I said, Kimmy said she didn't think that it would matter that Twan and Lance were godbrothers. Okay, now we have Will coming in. Oh, I never knew Destiny looked that great in a bodysuit. And Will DM'd her, asked her out on a date. So Destiny said, well, I invited him to, you know, this would be our first outing, and I invited him to this event. So Will proceeds to ask the men, you know, about Destiny. So I don't know if it was Martell or Maurice. Someone said, or Marceau, someone said, oh, she's a good, wholesome girl. And so Will was like, well, that's not really what I want to hear. So I was like, oh, okay. So Will is an F-boy. Let's get to it. Will is an F-boy. And so he, you know, of course, you know, he's probably, you know, he likes being on TV. I'm sure a lot of women are DMing him. And, you know, he's getting a little attention. And, you know, maybe it's going to his head a little bit. Maybe he's just, you know, that type of guy. I don't know. But I didn't like how he kind of approached the guys about Destiny. Because, like I said, Kimmy already said it wouldn't matter about the thing with Twan and Lance being godbrothers. In a way, it could be taken offensively and then not. Kimmy didn't say it in a nasty way, but I also feel like they're setting Destiny up to have this character or to look like she does not have boundaries. So now she's dated Lance. Now she's attracted to Twan and would love to go out on a date with Twan or see how, you know, that could actually work out. And now she's on a date with Will. So although it wasn't really locker room talk, so I wouldn't say it was that serious, but it was just the point that they were like, oh, you know, so Martell was like, well, what are you trying to do with her? You know, it's trying to be, you trying to have, you know, one night thing. You're crazy. He was like, yeah, she only has one night to prove herself. Okay, even though it was a joke, ha, ha, ha. tongue-in-cheek or whatever. But the point of the matter is, although he was joking, he was serious. And it's setting it up, like I said, that Destiny will have this label on her like she's like a loose girl. And I told you in the last video, I don't like the fact that Destiny talks about dating multiple men at the same time. You can date multiple men and you may not be sleeping with any of them. But we know in the society that we live in, it sort of puts a label on a woman and it makes her tend to look bad. And in this particular group, I'm talking about with the Love and Marriage Huntsville cast, I do believe that Destiny, it may not come out of this smelling like a rose. I don't think she's going to look, they're going to paint this picture of her that maybe Destiny is a loose woman and she has no boundaries. And God forbid, if Martin Luther Maurice or Marceau start getting in their wives' ears and talking about, you know, hey, Destiny is this kind of woman and she's that kind of woman and you need to watch her. And the next thing you know, Kimmy and Letitia are talking about we don't want you around and it may not be good that you're around our husbands. And, you know, Destiny could say, you know, just, you know, say something and she could be joking. And the next thing they know, you know, we know they'll be talking about she's flirting with somebody's husband. So I just can kind of see this happening. It hasn't happened yet, guys, but I'm just saying in the near future, let's just keep our eyes and ears open for this, because I do believe that it's something that they're going to try to put a label on Destiny. And I'm not going to be happy about it, but I can see how this can go. So while the guys were talking, someone made a mention that, hey, you know, Destiny was talking to Lance and he said, oh, you know, really, like Will said he didn't know that. And, you know, I could tell that Kim was kind of like trying to see where Will is coming from. He knows Will as a friend. Like he said, I know Will as my friend and who he is. To see him with Destiny is something totally different. You know, whoever else Will is talking to, Kim's like, cool, but don't bring it over here. That's what Kim was basically saying. So Lance told him that, yeah, he said, yeah, you know, we hung out, we dated, you know, he said, she's a cool girl, she's a good girl, you know, he said, but you know, it's over, there are no hard feelings, you have my blessing. And you know, Will was like, okay, cool. And that was kind of like the end of the conversation, but just the little jokes that they had about her, I was like, yeah, they're going to try to paint this picture of her later on down the road. And so they, you know, we kind of veer off to the ladies. The ladies were talking. At that time, Nell wasn't around. So Destiny was talking to Letitia, Latricia, and Kimmy. And Destiny said, well, have you spoken to Nell? And Letitia's like, no. And Letitia has this new thing now that I'm unbothered, yet I'm bothered. You know, she has this thing like, I don't care, you know, just stay out of my way, stay out of, you know, from in my space or whatever the case may be. But the truth of the matter is that Tisha really does care, because a lot was said and a lot was done and she didn't like any of it, and you can tell that she is bothered. So Destiny said, well, you know, one of your advice to me was always to have a conversation. Don't just, you know, let it go without having a conversation. And so, you know, she said, you know, take my advice, you know, just try to have a conversation and see what comes out of it. So Letitia was hesitant, but she did ask Nell, could, you know, hey, could they go outside and talk? So all the ladies went outside, and it was like a really nice setup. There was a pool and some other things outside. And so the guys stayed in. Of course, some of the guys were, you know, being nosy, trying to see what was going on. I know Chris certainly wasn't that far away from his wife. And so they were having a spirited conversation. Letitia said, well, you know, I heard that you're upset, but I don't know why. So Nell was very cold, dismissive. She really didn't want to say a lot. She just said, I'm not going to talk about my granddaughter. So Letitia said, well, Nell, I'm not talking about your granddaughter. I'm talking about me. She said, you have a problem with me and what I told Destiny, but I did not lie. That is what you told me. And so again, Nell repeated, but I'm not going to let you talk about my granddaughter. Well, Letitia responded and said, I don't give a F about your granddaughter. I'm talking about me. You have a problem with me. You're going around this group telling everyone that I need to keep your name out of my mouth, and I want to know what the deal is if nothing that I said about you was a lie. So of course, it sort of set Nell off, because the only thing Nell heard was that I don't give a F about your granddaughter. So Nell was upset, pissed off, and they were kind of like going back and forth. And so Kimmy even confirmed and said, look, you did say something about the baby. Regardless of how how you want to slice it, dice it, however you want to dress it up, something was said about the baby, and I'm not going to I'm not going to tolerate you hollering. So the guys were like, oh, what's going on? A lot of them were kind of like, oh God, let's see what's going on. I know Marceau and somebody else, they were kind of like jumping up. Maurice was kind of like, just let them work it out, or hopefully it won't get bad or whatever. But they were getting into it. So even Kimmy, she kind of like really jumped in there with Nell this time. She was like, I'm not going to tolerate your hollering. And she was like, I will throw you in this pool. And everybody was like, what? And I was like, whoa, Kimmy, wake it up. Okay, Kimmy. But Kimmy normally does not react that way. She really, really doesn't. And I understand, and I've always liked that about Kimmy. It's like, Kimmy, I understand her. It's like, don't start none, won't be none. And to me, the type of personality that Nell has, it's like Nell is like one of those people that will like push you to go there, because she doesn't stop. And so that's what was kind of going on. Nell had started yelling, and Kimmy, they really got into it. Like Destiny literally was like trying to hold them and push them so that they would not really, fight. And so the men came outside, so they broke it up or whatever the case may be. So everybody went in. Kimmy said in her confessional, she said, I don't like for people to yell. She said, my father was abusive. She said he would get drunk and he would yell, and then he would abuse my mom. So she said, as a little girl, it set me off. Even as an adult, when I hear people yelling, I don't like it. And I totally understand, Kimmy. I didn't grow up with abusive parents at all, but I'm just a person. I don't like loud talking. I don't like that. For some reason, it sets me off too. There is a form of intimidation, and a lot of people don't realize that. I'm not saying that you can't express yourself. I'm not saying that you're not passionate about what you're saying, but I also know that people, when they do that, they're trying to silence you. They're trying to bully you at times. They're trying to sort of force you to shut down or to bow to them. And I think that's how Kimmy kind of saw what Nell was doing, and she did not like it. But in true Kimmy fashion, she apologized and she communicated extremely well. Kimmy said, look, she told Nell what it was. And what I love that Kimmy said, and it was so on point, Kimmy said, look, maybe hollering is normal in your world, but that doesn't work for me. And I said, that was just pure class, A1. I love it. And that's exactly how they need to communicate. Kimmy is an excellent communicator, and she said what she said. She meant what she said. She stood on it, but it was truth, and the truth rang like a bell, and Nell couldn't even deny that. Yeah, and that is normal in Nell's world, because maybe she's afraid that she won't get the attention, or people won't listen to her, or people will walk all over her. So she's constantly yelling and bulldozing and bogarting her way through life and through every conversation. And I'm glad that Kimmy let her know, I'm not scared of you. I as an adult, I don't want to have to go there, but I'm glad that Kimmy let her know, if you keep going there, you're going to get another side of me, and you're not going to like it. So even Nell kind of piped down. And I was happy about that. And I think Nell kind of realized where Kimmy was coming from after Kimmy apologized. And Nell apologized to her too. And, they kind of like cleared it up. And, they hugged on it, and that was cool. Now, Tisha was in a different space. Tisha was like, I would not apologize to Nell for anything. And so Marcel was like, Marcel was like, well, we need to, everyone needs to try to get along and, this, that, and the other. But Tisha was like, that's the problem. We keep saying that we're fine, and in actuality, we're not. We try to get over something and smooth it over, and then we're right back where we always end up. And Letitia was right about that, because we're going to see in the weeks to come, even in next week's episode, Nell was going off, or she was I guess, sort of going back over with Chris about what Kimmy said to her. And it seems like Nell is angry or mad about Kimmy saying she was going to push her in the pool all over again. So like Tisha said, we make up and we try to put a band-aid on it, and we try to put a smile on it and make it seem like everything is good, and it's not. And so that was the end of the episode, people. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel and let me know what you think. How did you feel about this episode? I think people, I've been seeing online, or I've been hearing people say that, Love and Marriage Huntsville has fallen off and a lot of people aren't interested. I don't feel that way. I'm still watching. I still enjoy the show. I know that there are some differences and stuff like that. And I know it's been a long time and we've been watching them fight for a long time, but I do enjoy the show. So let me know what you think. Did you think, how do you feel about Latricia's healing journey? Do you think that it will make a difference in her and Ken's relationship? How do you feel about Destiny dating, Twan or even Will? How do you feel about that? Do you think she should date either one of them or just let it go and see somebody new altogether? And what do you think about the fight? Who did you think was wrong? Do you think Nell was wrong? Do you think Kimmy was wrong? Do you think Letitia was wrong? Let me know what you think. And I will definitely, reply back to you. I love to talk to some of you guys. I know that's not everybody's thing, but I do love, when I get a comment back and, you let me know how you feel. We're not going to always agree, good, bad, or indifferent. I still love to, hear your opinions. As long as you're respectful, it's cool. Like, I can learn something from you just as you may learn something from me. So thanks for it all. This is Thanksgiving weekend, guys. Let me just say thank you so much for even supporting me and supporting my videos. I don't do it that often, but I like it when I come here and I do it. I do enjoy it, and I love bringing the reviews to you. So thank you to all of you. I hope you have a great week with your family, with your friends. Even if you're not doing anything, if you're just resting, you have some time off from work and you want to watch some movies and kick back and get some sleep, it's all good. Whatever you do, enjoy it. And I love you guys, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.